So let's go back to the teep kick for a second, because I think that is a very misleading thing for a lot of people who are watching that haven't experienced it. Now, if you're wondering what we're talking about, it's the kicks that Derrick Lewis claimed were really only an issue because he needed to make an emergency trip to the restroom. That's basically what he was saying. But that was a way of, you were saying, of covering up basically that he was impacted by the body damage.
And I think it was a much more entertaining way of answering it.
It was.
The question was asked very boringly by Brian Stann that, well, you were hit to the body and you look like you were hurt. Well, no shit, Sherlock. A guy who's 6'8" just put his foot through my stomach, and I put my arms around my belly. Yeah, I was hurt. I think everybody, and even someone on life support, could have realized that I was hurt. So I think that, he could have probably maybe angled the question to be more along the lines of, you were hurt. What was your plan to try to overcome that? Were you thinking that maybe he would stop throwing the kick, or were you going to jam it up? What did your corner say to you in between to help try to identify how to conquer, or to overcome that, stating out that it was a problem is the same kind of commentary that now that I do more broadcasting, I see is so just boring. Oh, he hit him with the left hand. I'm like, really, dude? That's what we're paying you to sit there, is to call out what I just saw with my own eyes? Like, why don't you explain in a little bit more depth what's going on? What setup led to that? What's the other guy trying to do to avoid that? Is it a breakdown? In which status? Who's that going? I think a little bit more in depth, more than just being, you realize that I have television now, right? This isn't a radio broadcast where I need you just to describe what you're seeing.
Right. It's not like the 1930s.
No.
Down goes the champ. Down goes the champ.
And he lands a right hand. Well, on radio, I needed you to tell me that.
Yeah.
Now we have high def television, 4K, you name it. I can see that he hit him with the left hand. We all saw it.
But with the kick itself, the thing is, and this is where your analysis is very helpful, because I think to a lot of people that see that, it looks like what he did was he poked Derrick Lewis in the tummy with his toes. Now, I know there's more to it than that,
a lot to
but in a flash, you understand, that's kind of what it looks like at a glance. It's not, I think a lot of people associate a more devastating kick with like the top of your foot or even your heel, if I were to slam my whole heel into your stomach. But you're saying that when you receive that, it's
actually
deceptively
the ball of your foot,
painful.
what's happening, and how they changed the kick around a little bit and call it more of a pendulum. In Thai boxing, they call it a teep, right? And it's more of a distance gauger. And if you watch a traditional Thai stylist throw that type of kick, the front kick, a teep, again, have different people, sometimes they call it a thrust kick in karate. Usually the knee comes up extremely high, and then the person thrusts the foot out. And it's more akin to an action of me trying to kick a door down. So there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of power in it, but I'm trying to create distance. So if someone was charging me, you could teep them with the flat of the foot, and you push them backwards.
Kind of like a foot jab?
Right.
Yeah.
But not a foot jab, because the jab is more akin to what Travis and John and a lot of the guys now that are doing more of the pendulum type of kick. What it is more back into more traditional karate, where it's a snap kick. So what they're doing is they're aiming their knee, and they're not bringing their knee above it. So they're not using their glute. They're not using a thrusting motion. They're not stomping on your chest. What they're doing is they're aiming their foot, and then the foot swings under, and it comes towards you almost the same way if they were going to snap kick maybe a soccer ball or kick a punt. And then at the last second, they might push their hips forward ever so slightly to redirect the speed of the foot that's locking out from the quadricep. And then as they curl the toes back, the ball of your foot thrusts right into the organs. And it's extremely fast kick that at the last second, when you hit, your skeletal frame is now in line. So now it has your weight behind it. And it causes it's a blast, and it shocks the organs. And that's the problem, is usually the thrust kick's slow and heavy and strong, where this one's kind of like getting hit with a baseball. So when it hits you, it causes it, especially if it gets hit in the midsection, the diaphragm could seize up, and then everybody's had their wind knocked out of them, can relate to what's happening to Derrick Lewis. So in reality, the diaphragm goes into contraction, it spasms. So now when you spaz, your diaphragm is responsible for exiting and entering the oxygen out of your lungs. You have no muscles around your lungs. The diaphragm is actually what allows you to breathe. So that smooth muscle tissue, when it receives that shock, causes all the air to basically crush out of your lungs. So that's when you've seen Derrick bending over. He was actually having a hard time trying to take a deep breath. His body's fighting itself. And he was able to recover, which good on him. And then and to the benefit of all of us, made one hell of a funny reply on what was really going on.
Does any of that have to do with physique? Like if somebody had like really tight defined abs, right? Like would that help at all? Or does that have not anything to do with it?
You know what? A lot of it is sometimes I think having an extra layer of fat on your stomach probably helps, because I've sparred a lot with Roy Nelson, and you've seen him take knees from Alistair Overeem, who's probably, I dare anybody tell me who they think knees harder than Alistair does, and he didn't fall down. Most guys take a knee to the body from Alistair, and they're in a lot of pain.
So it really
you're
could
hating
be
life.
Really could be the opposite of.
Yeah, I think that actually having
a lot of people would think
a gut, a beer belly, and being conditioned, like someone like a Roy, even though they're heavy, and then Derrick, obviously has a little bit of a belly. I think it actually can help you out if in tune you have a little bit of conditioning and you have a little bit layer of fat to help maybe soften the blow and keep it that far away from your actual tissue, muscle tissue.
So you're saying Houdini might have lived to a ripe old age if he had a big gut?
Yes. And Houdini did a good job at it. I think just the kid kind of caught him breathing out at the wrong time. And that's another thing is just if you do enough, it's funny when I see guys in the gym train stomach conditioning, and look, the nervous system's a nervous system. There's really no way to train that if I hit you in the diaphragm, your nerves are going to be any less prepared or more prepared to take a shot than my diaphragm. What it is that your body knows how to tighten up at the right moment and inhale and exhale so that you can, absorb that shot better. So if your stomach's really relaxed and as I throw a punch, you breathe in, oh man, that's the worst combination in the world. If you're breathing in as I put my knuckles into your diaphragm or my foot, you're going to be, in trouble.
So Derrick Lewis is hurt during the first round. I would certainly give that round to Travis Browne.
Yes.
Second round, Travis succumbs to Derrick's power punches. Derrick gets him against the cage, lands some
great
serious
adjustment. Yeah, he was throwing punches to the right hand to the head.
Yep.
Travis shelled up, trying to block those, and then Derrick was able to transition and throw two vicious uppercuts up the middle. That really, I think those are the two punches that pretty much did Travis in.
And do you think that that's actually an example of where Travis's height hurt him at a disadvantage for those uppercuts? Because that was sort of like a Tyson-esque equation where the shorter guy in that was able to punch those uppercuts. Maybe if Travis had been a shorter guy and he had to get up underneath his guard, maybe he wouldn't have been able to land them.
I don't think there would be that
well.
much of an adjustment in height.
Yeah.
I think that what at that point what hurt Travis was that he didn't have a good clinch. I think if Travis had a better clinch, he could have, let's say that was Alistair, somebody who was a phenomenal clinch in MMA. If he could have came forward and maybe tied Derrick up, thrown some knees, try to recover. Just sitting back and shelling up and putting up your guard, it's a recipe for disaster. Had Derrick not been able to land shots on Travis at that point, with Travis not firing back any offense, just covered up, sitting there. I mean, basically he was a sitting duck. His back was against the cage. He wasn't able to move left or right. At that point, again, if Derrick hadn't landed some shots, I'd have questioned Derrick's ability to move on in the rankings as a fighter. I'd be like, wow, you had a guy basically just handed you on a platter and you couldn't do nothing with it. So Travis, he was too wobbled to be able to move around and stick behind a jab. I think that if he had worked more on, the other aspects of MMA, not just how to get out of a clinch, but how to put it on. And I've worked with Travis. I know he knows how to do that, but because he doesn't drill it as diligently as he probably drills offensive striking that he does, when he needed it, when he was hurt, his nervous system or his central cortex, the primal reptilian part of your brain, wasn't trained what to do. He just sat there and covered up like a boxer. It's like, well, no, you need to clinch, throw a plum clinch, a 50-50. Shit, at that point, double overs, give the guy the body lock, but tie him up, and get your bearings back on.